Well, thanks a lot. Or as President Obama would say, you're welcome. Well, as the story goes, then President Lyndon Baines Johnson assembled his team into the cabinet room of the White House, and he characteristically and loudly yelled out down the table. He said, "Hey, Moyers," Bill Moyers was his press secretary at the time, "why don't you start the meeting out with a prayer?" And Bill Moyers began to softly pray down at the other end of the long table. And LBJ bellowed out again and said, "We can't hear you down at this end of the room." As the story goes, Moyers softly said, "With all due respect, sir, it wasn't you I was talking to." Well, that's a great story about remembering where we get our help from, where we look to for our guidance and our leadership. I want to thank this group, the Faith and Freedom Coalition, for having their 11th annual gathering. It's very important. I want to thank Chuck. I want to thank the leadership of this organization. Ralph, thank you for bringing us together under the banner of faith and freedom. We have a lot of challenge in this country at this moment and in this intersection. I'm reminded of another time where our country faced similar challenges. It was in 1981. We had just had a brutal and difficult election, but an important thing happened. Ronald Reagan won the presidency of the United States of America. And on the country had almost seemingly insurmountable economic challenge. We had trouble abroad and security concerns, many of the same challenges we're facing today. And in that January day that was overcast, Ronald Reagan came from out of the Capitol, and he stood at the podium, and he said later that he felt, even though the day was overcast, and that moment he thought that a beam of sunshine had kind of hit him and warmed up the podium in a way just in time for his swearing in. But he put his hand on the Bible, and he took the oath of office as President of the United States of America. That Bible was opened up to 2 Chronicles 7:14. The passage, as you know, says this: "If my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, forgive their sins, and heal their land." And Nell Reagan, who couldn't have known at the time that she wrote it, President Reagan's mom, wrote something in the margins out to the side to the effect of a great passage for healing the nations. That was great direction in that time. It's great direction for us in our time, and it's great direction for the future of this country for all time. We need to know where our help comes from. We need to be a country that turns toward God, not a country that turns away from God. Now, this is not the rhetoric of Ralph Reed or Chuck Scheffler or this group or any politician. This is a founding premise and perspective of the United States of America. They just didn't talk it. They just didn't believe it. They thought it was so important, so profoundly important, they embedded it into the founding documents in this country. There are many eloquent examples. You know of them. I'll give you just a few by way of example. In the Declaration of Independence, it of course says, we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. It doesn't say we're endowed by our member of Congress or our bureaucrat or our school board member. Our freedoms and our privileges are a grant, a blessing from our Creator. And we need to make sure we remember that. And our freedoms are a gift from our Creator, and our Constitution guarantees that they will continue. And 49 of the 50 states have language in the very beginning of their Constitution, like Iowa does, like Minnesota does. In our Constitution, similar to your language here in Iowa, ours says, "We, the people of Minnesota, grateful to God for our civil and religious liberties." And it goes on from there to talk about the importance of perpetuating those blessings for future generations to come. We need to remember as others try to push out or marginalize people of faith, we need to remember this and always remember it. The Constitution was designed to protect people of faith from government, not to protect government from people of faith. Now, leadership in this regard matters a lot. And the leaders nationally and at the state level set the tone and the pace and the focus for our nation in these matters. And we have a problem in Washington, D.C. We have some of the leaders there who believe the enormous immoral debt in our country doesn't matter. It matters. Just because we followed Greece into democracy does not mean we follow them into bankruptcy. We have people in Washington, D.C. who believe the unborn do not have a right to life. Yes, they do. We have people in Washington, D.C. who say marriage will be defined however we feel like defining it. No, it won't. It should be defined as between a man and a woman. We have people in Washington, D.C. who believe that the judges and the elites and the others should decide. They need to be reminded that the Constitution doesn't say we the judges or we the media or we the elites. It says we the people. We tell them what to do. They don't tell us what to do. Now, I've got a lot of folks who say, oh, come on, Governor, this is tough. You know, the country's divided. There's a lot of challenges. The interest groups are powerful. It's difficult to do. You are looking at somebody who was the conservative governor of the state of McCarthy, Mondale, Humphrey, Wellstone, and now United States Senator Al Franken. As Frank Sinatra would sing about New York, if we can do it there, we can do it anywhere. So if you look at my record as governor, we have a record, and this is important. Chuck spoke about it today in the newspaper. As the conservative movement, as people of faith who sometimes have had their hopes high and been disappointed in the past, we need leaders who can not just talk the talk, but who can walk the walk. We need people that you know based on who they are and what they believe and why they believe it, who will stand in with their compass setting set right and move forward with fortitude and strength and courage and get the job done. In the state of Minnesota, during my time as governor, we took spending down and reduced it for the first time below zero in a 150-year history of my state. We cut taxes in real terms over the 8 years, even though we had 2 recessions during that time. We reformed one of the first states in the nation to do bold public employee pension reform. We were the first state to go statewide in the country to have performance pay for teachers, to pay them other than just on seniority, but on performance. We did welfare reform. We did tort reform. We did all the kinds of things that the country needs and is talking about now. And there are only 4 governors in the country that got an A from the tough grading and really libertarian Cato Institute. One was in Louisiana, my friend Bobby Jindal. One was in South Carolina. One was in West Virginia. And I was the other one. I was the only one in the north half of the country that got that grade. Now, none of that was easy. I set a record. I am the single-season record holder for issuing vetoes in the state of Minnesota. We had the first and only government shutdown in the 150-year history of my state on my watch. I unallotted nearly $3 billion out of the budget by myself, which I think is more unallotments than all of the other governors in the history of the state combined, previous to my time as governor. We had one of the longest transit strikes in the history of the country because our government bus drivers thought they should be able to work just 15 years and then be able to have the government pay for their health insurance for the rest of their life. So we took a strike, 44 days, shut down the transit system for a month and a half, basically, in the 15th largest metropolitan area in the country. We had all the usual protests, all the noises, all the sights and sounds that you hear about now. I had people standing outside my window with signs saying, "Pawlenty is a weapon of mass transit destruction." But I'd go around the state on this issue and many like it and say, hey, if you're not in government, how many of you get to work 15 years and then have the government pay for your health insurance for the rest of your life? No hands ever went up. And then I'd say, do you know the bus drivers get that? They do, Governor? Do you know that you're paying for that? We are, Governor? Do you think we should shut that benefit off? Heck yeah, Governor. They're ready to come down to the Capitol with me. As you know, we got big issues to tackle, and none of this is going to be easy. And those are just some examples of the kinds of things that we tackled in my state. So it ain't going to be easy, but if prosperity were easy, everybody in the world would be prosperous. And if security were easy, everybody in the world would be secure. And if freedom were easy, everybody in the world would be free. But they're not. It takes extraordinary commitment. It takes extraordinary strength to stand up to the people who oppose these principles. Valley Forge wasn't easy. Settling the West wasn't easy. Winning World War II wasn't easy. Going to the moon wasn't easy. This ain't about easy. This is about rolling up our sleeves, plowing ahead, and getting the job done. This is about our country. We, the people of the United States, will rise up again. We will take back our government. We are the people of this country. This is our country. Our founding fathers created it. Americans embraced it. Ronald Reagan personified it. And Abraham Lincoln stood courageously to defend it. We need to do the same. Now as ever, this nation, under God, will have a new birth of freedom. Our government, of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. And we will have the greatest nation, continue to have the greatest nation the world has ever known. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.